Yeah, all right, everyone, welcome back. So, continuing our discussion on mercantilism. I think, not I think, in the last class we spoke about Jean Baptiste Colbert. So, today we'll be talking about the contributions of Philip von Honig to mercantilism. Then, let's quickly go through the lesson outcomes again. We've covered introduction to mercantilism, features, mercantilism in France, Jean Baptiste Colbert. So, I noticed that in the previous presentation, I didn't put the year that Jean Baptiste Colbert lived. So I've added it here 1690 to 1683, and although I added the one for Philip von Honig, but I decided to replicate the same thing, for the sake of, quality control or whatever it can be called. So today we'll be talking about mercantilism in Britain, and we're finishing these remaining three things. They are not difficult. Number one, the government and merchants became partners. The government protected the merchants and got a share through duties and taxes. So I don't think this is difficult to understand. The government was not all of those tariffs, all of those subsidies and everything. So they were government protection in one way or the other. And of course, well, the government also has to get something. So through the taxes that it is imposing and the duties it is collecting, so it gets revenue that way. And number two, industries were organized into monopolies and merchant guilds. For example, the Sugar Act of 1764 raised duties on foreign refined sugar and molasses imported by the colonies to give British sugar growers in the West Indies a monopoly over the colonial market. So what it's trying to say here is that um, the foreign sugar that was going to be sold, like sugar that was, how do I even put it now? I'm tired. Okay. Um, what this point is trying to say here is that the foreign taxes were being imposed on foreign refined sugar so that the colonies wouldn't be able to purchase them. So like they make the prices of of foreign refined sugar so high and the colonies wouldn't be able to buy them. So eventually it means that the British sugar growers will be the only one that will be able to supply the colonies. I mean, as a market now, that people supply the colonies. And so, what the government was doing was to restrict competition, was to restrict foreign competition. So, and if you are restricting foreign competition, of course, you are granting directly or indirectly your local manufacturers, you are granting them monopoly by automatically assigning a greater market share to them. So, that's what is essentially happening, and that was what the Sugar Act of 1764 did. Okay, it made foreign refined sugar so costly that the colonies couldn't really afford them. And number three, during Great Britain's mercantilist period, colonies faced periods of inflation and excessive taxation. Of course, inflation shouldn't be a big deal because you are being forced to buy products at very high prices. Products do not worth as much. You are forced to buy them at very high prices. And then uh, inflation is too much money chasing few goods, right? So that's just you paying too much for what you're not supposed to pay too much for. And excessive taxation, you have tariffs here and there. So it was a lot. So this caused great distress, such that angry and frustrated American colonists revolted against the British government, and that led to the American Revolution, which started or was which kind of led to the end of mercantilism, at least as far as American colonies were concerned. So you have resources, but somebody is coming to tell you that you have to produce as much as this amount. Then the person is also telling that regardless of the effort that you put into production, this is the amount that you must sell it. So all of these are frustrating. They are frustrating. So I don't have that means as Americans we don't have power over our own resources. We can't control them. We are the one controlling our resources for us. So it's frustrating. Okay, so no wonder. That's what happens when you cheat people a lot to get to the point where they will just have to like turn their backs on you and kind of deal with yours anyway. And number four, total prohibition of sale of some raw materials. I didn't put an example here, so just try to figure out examples. I should have put an example, but try to figure out example. What were some of the products that were totally prohibited? So there's what were some of the raw materials that were totally prohibited from being sold, to other countries. So instead of selling them, instead of exporting them, use them in your local manufacturing industries. Okay, or your local manufacturers should make use of them. Conversion of wastelands to agricultural use. So here, any land at all must not go to waste, because we are, of course, agriculture was no longer the mainstay, it was no longer what was bringing wealth, like I explained in the previous class, but it's um, it was reducing food imports. Okay, so and that is helping us to cut our costs on importation. So any land at all, every land must be put to use. So that's what it's trying to say. Every land must be put to use. So we are trying to get as much wealth as possible as we can get, and we are going to remove every stumbling block to that part. So conversion of wastelands to agricultural use. So that was also one of the features. Now number 6, I didn't mention this um, when I was talking about the general features of mercantilism. So military presence in terms of foot soldiers, like soldiers on ground, and navy. So the military presence was needed to um, control or to um, control the affairs of the colonies and ensure that what they were doing was in the interest of their colonizers. Okay, so sometimes the military is there to check, okay, are you producing the amounts that they are supposed to produce as a colony? Are you selling the rest of things? Hope you are not bypassing us and they are selling or buying from our competitors, so the military was there to do that. Now the navy as well, for example, the Navigation Act of 1651 forbade vessels. So we're not talking about vessels, we are talking about ships and all of that, from trading along the British coasts. Okay, so as a competitor, your vessel must not be seen along the British coast. There's going to be trouble. Okay, so um, Britain invested in that to ensure that it was not happening. I think France did the same thing. Okay, when we're talking about navigation, developing waterways, navigation, canals, and all of that. Okay, and the Navy also required colonial exports to first pass through British controls before being redistributed throughout Europe. So colonial exports as a colony, as a British colony, whatever it is that you are producing must first pass through our country. So we have to inspect it and ensure that it is right. So right amount of what you're supposed to trade, and the destination, is it where it is supposed to get to, and then the quality of the produce. So it was there to inspect all of those things and make sure that they were according to the specifications of the colonizers. All right, so before being redistributed throughout Europe. Now note, the British mercantilism reached its zenith during the long Parliament government, that's between 1640 to 1660. All right, so this man here, Philip von Honig, he lived between 1640 to 1714. He was a German civil servant and a supporter of the economic theory of mercantilism. He outlined 9 mercantilist principles. So according to him, the principles that must hold, okay, for any nation or country that is practicing mercantilism. So for those who don't know how to memorize, I think you would have to memorize these principles, maybe develop a mnemonics for it, okay, and just a mnemonic for it rather. And they are not actually difficult. So it's more or less, once you know one, you automatically know the other one. Okay, so number 1, please, 9 principles of mercantilism, not necessarily in Britain, just 9 principles of mercantilism according to Philip von Honig. So number 1, to inspect the country's soil with the greatest care and not leave agricultural possibilities of a single corner plot of earth unconsidered. So every land must be put into use. That's what it was saying. Number 2, all commodities found in a country which cannot be used in their natural states should be worked up within the country. That's also easy. So every primary product, every raw material must be improved upon. So you must add value to them. It must go through some form of processing, and it has to be within the country. Number 3, attention should be given to the population that it may be as large as the country can support. So this is one of the way that a government should regulate consumption. Okay, so ensuring that your population does not outgrow your means of subsistence. But here we are trying to gather as much wealth as possible. So um, don't allow your population to outgrow your resources, so that in such a way that our motive is going to be hindered or disturbed. Our motive of accumulating wealth. So Anything that would look like liability, take it off. So that's what they're trying to. That's what he was trying to say. Now, gold and silver once in the country are under no circumstances to be taken out for any purpose. So once gold and silver has entered into the country, not even for international payments, don't take it out for any purpose. So we are practicing, we are trying to gather as much gold and silver as possible. So once that's entered this country, no going out of it. Now the inhabitants should make every effort to get along with their domestic product. So here, the government is also regulating consumption. So consume what you are producing. That's what this policy is. That's what this principle is talking about. Consume what you are producing. Basic. All right. So don't say you want to import manufactured products for what? Consume your own manufactured product as well. So just leave it that way. Leave it that way. Now, foreign commodities should be obtained not for gold or silver, but in exchange for other domestic wares. So foreign commodities should be so whenever you're making international payments, just ensure that you are engaging yourself in barter. Okay, like barter system. So if you buy products, ensure that you repay them with products of your own. Please don't. So you can see that it is like the extension of saying that when gold and silver get in the country shouldn't go out. It's just the same thing as been said here. Right? Once it is in your country, don't use it for international payments at all. So instead, use replace whatever you're buying with domestic products. If the person doesn't want it, maybe just. Alright, number 7, foreign commodities should be imported in unfinished form and worked up within the country. So first, your own primary products should be worked on within your country, and then if you were to import any product at all, it should be a primary product that you are also to add value to within your country. So a lot of protectionism, just a lot of it. Now, opportunity should be sought night and day for the selling of the country's superfluous goods to these foreigners in manufactured form. So this was why colonialism was required. This was why they needed colonies so they could sell to. So you have manufactured products. Of course, your competitors, the other European powers, they were not going to buy because they were also implementing going by these principles or kind of they were meant to also go by these principles. Like you have to look for colonies where you can sell your manufactured goods. Okay, and also it's not here, but I'm adding it colonies where you can get more raw materials in case the one in your country is not enough. Okay, so you can see colonialism is a big part of mercantilism. And you can't separate them. It was required. Colonialism was required, and colonialism, of course, it's also includes slave trade, maltreatment of people, you impoverishing your colonies. So you are us deeply them into poverty. You understand? They buy things, they produce things, you tell them what to produce. They produce it, tell them the price to charge. The price to the price to charge, and the prices are not even high. Then you go come back, say manufactured goods at high prices. So anyway, no importation should be allowed under any circumstances of which there is a sufficient supply of suitable quality and quantity. If you have a suitable quality, so it's not necessarily a perfect quality now. So you see some countries like Nigeria where you have companies coming up to produce to assemble vehicles, and then you still have the Nigerian government itself going to other countries to purchase SUVs and what have you. So if you have a sufficient supply of suitable, so it's not talking about perfect quality now. As much as they are close substitutes, do not import. Consume is still more or less saying that consume what you produce. Right, so that's it. I even forgot that I still have this to talk about the Dutch East India Company and the British East India Company. So these were companies um, um, created or established by the respective countries like Netherlands and Britain. Netherlands and Britain, yeah. So these were countries that were created, and of course their job was to buy um, primary products from their colonies and then sell to the home countries. So the Dutch East India Company's job, it was established by the mercantilists, backed up by the government. Same thing as the British East India Company that was established by Queen Elizabeth. Okay, backed up by the government anyway. And their job really was, like I mentioned, buying um, primary products, raw materials from the colonies and sell them to what they call it, to your own country's citizens. So much of the trade that took place before the mid 17th century was controlled by the Spanish and the Dutch. And like I mentioned, that the Dutch, France had to come up with something in response to what the Dutch mercantilists were doing. So, so yeah, he also has Spain. Um, Let me read it again. Much of the trade that took place before the mid 17th century was controlled by the Spanish and the Dutch, including to and from England. So trade to and trade from England. Now that was until the British decided to take the reins of their own shipping rights and eliminate these other nations completely from the equation. Okay, the aforementioned companies were government-backed monopolies that were started by merchants of the respective countries and created to get raw materials such as spices, cotton, indigo, dye, etc. from their Asian colonies and then sell them for very high profit in their respective home countries. Okay, so the government and the merchants made money from their arrangements at the expense of their own people and the colonized. Of course, when you buy things cheaply from the colonies and then you sell at very high prices to your citizens. So what are you doing? You're ripping them off. And the colonies, they are not really benefiting because they are forcing them to sell their resources cheaply. They're not benefiting. Then you are forcing your own citizens to your own countries to buy the products at very high prices. So that is just the essential. I think with this we come to the end of mercantilism. So spoke about um, what it essentially entails. So it's more or less like a simple, it's kind of straightforward and a simple, um, um, straightforward and simple. Let me just put it that way, straightforward and simple. Okay, compared to maybe other other things that we'll be talking about in the future, we might have talked about in the past. Okay, so um, the assignment, I told you that we have assignments. So what I tend to do is not that you're going to ask all of these questions and submit them to me as you used to. I've tried to kind of, you know, bring up possible questions so that you think about it and anyone, the ones you can answer, of course, you know where to submit your assignments. So I'll be the one to tell you because I don't know how many set of students are going to see this year in year out. So I really want to tell you the one that I want to specifically answer. But then you have to take care of every other question too. Okay, because you don't know what your lecturer and your various schools might be asking you to provide or to provide answers to. Now, number one, from what you have understood, briefly explain 5 criticisms and strengths of mercantilism. You may be looking at that as bad, it's terrible, it's this and that, but then there are strengths, right? There are strengths. So like look at it very well from what you have understood. So I'm not really asking you to just go online and then begin to browse and then copy and paste out. No, that's gonna be your problem. So, but just look at what you've learned critically and try to come up with. I think there are some little things I may come up with from what you have understood. So briefly explain 5. And criticisms are easy to find them quickly. On the strengths, okay. So what were the gains of mercantilism? What can you think? What can you just think? Just say something. Say something nice, something correct. Now number 2, the mercantilist era was characterized by protectionist policies such as prohibition and tariffs. Prohibition and tariffs. Discuss the effectiveness or lack of it of these two policies in the facilitation of a favorable foreign trade, thus arguing for the better policy of the two. Alright, so between prohibition and tariffs, so discuss the effectiveness of both and then which is better. So that's what the question is essentially asking you to answer. Which is better? Now, number 3, what can you say about the implication of the mercantilist principles on the economic growth and development of a nation? What can you say about the implication of the mercantilist principles on the economic growth and development of a nation? So you've learned, I believe you've understood a thing or two. So you may read more and come up with this question is actually like a possible examination question. That's what I think. Okay. Then number 4, which is an applied question. As long the Nigerian government seems to be revisiting the mercantilist era through its border closure policy and harsh import tariffs from a highly developed trading partners. Okay, as a student of this course, what can you say about the likely implications of this on the economic growth and development of the country? Okay, so this question is a remodification of question three, if you understand this. Those kind of questions that you see, and then maybe like for 5 minutes you are trying to understand what it is really asking you to do or to write on or to discuss. So assume the Nigerian government is trying to revisit the mercantilist era street border pressure policy as import tariffs. Okay, so just what do you think would be the likely implications of um, that on the economic growth and development of the country? Now, number five, on a more sober reflection, are the circumstances in question for really mercantilists discuss? So you are assuming, so you are working with question four, now for question five, you are working with, you're starting from question four. So you are looking at border closure and national import tariffs. Is that really mercantilist? So discuss it. So here you are meant to argue your point. So argue your point very well. This is an applied question, so if you don't understand it, I don't think you'll be able to answer it very well. But I like the question. I'm very serious about that. Okay, that's about that today. So we'll be looking at physiocracy in our next class. So thank you once again for completing this topic. See you in the next class. Bye bye.